Welcome to the show.
Unforgettable. That's what you are.
Mike Eghan gave it a freestyle, free expression. He would ad-lib and tell a story and describe something and do an interview.
As you young people would say, he was quite hot in those days.
I admired him from when I was a little boy.
Anytime you spoke to him, he told you an interesting story.
He was a pioneer, an ace, and one who ushered in a new way of media presentation. The man known as the Magnificent, the Emperor, and to those close enough, simply Uncle Mike, also showed us how successful transitions can be made smoothly if you play your cards right and if you believe. Here for the first time, the man Mike Eghan, alongside some of those who know him best, sat down to tell us candidly about his life.
Unforgettable.
On Saturday, 14th March 1936, Mike Eghan was born. His parents were Benjamin Eghan Sr. and Mrs. Araba Morrison Eghan. Mike was the fifth of 10 siblings. Mike will tell you that he was born in Sekondi, one half of the only twin city in Ghana.
But I do remember my growing up days from a place called the European Town. If we come to Sekondi Takoradi, it's usually referred to as Akobrim. We were close to the beach, and that's where I grew up. Well, I come from a family of 10, same mother, same father, 10 of us. But some of them have already left. The twins had only a couple of weeks to survive, and they passed on. And my other siblings have also gone away. But right now, as we speak today, I have 3 sisters and me. My eldest brother was Ben Eghan Jr., who also was in radio and television. And then my sister, who is now 85, still lives in Sekondi. I have another sister who is an educationist who lives in Cape Coast with a husband. And the younger one, who comes directly behind me, after me, lives in Tema. So this is the siblings that we had.
When he was born, he was a bit troublesome in the house.
Yeah. Is there any particular thing you remember about him, or any one thing that you can remember in terms of trouble?
Climbing trees.
Climbing trees?
Very.
Okay.
Jumping here and there. He can jump from another branch.
Really?
Of the tree.
Oh, okay.
To
another one.
Yeah.
That was a monkey.
Yeah.
And he's very serviceable, as I said.
Okay.
And very sympathetic. Even though he's very young, he's sympathetic.
Would you say he was protective, always trying to protect you?
Oh, yes, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. He does so many things.
Okay.
He does so many things. He protects you.
Oh,
very,
I see.
very, very for that, for sure.
That's good.
He doesn't want to, troublesome, but he doesn't want to harm anybody.
Right, right.
He doesn't want to harm. Troublesome in a jovial way. As he used to be on the telly, you all know.
Right.
What's the shape of my man and a baby? Obia or Nijman. And so I need my paper. Na, Opia grosso cacra. And then cannon, pipe in you fear them and then. Me fear a cramania pipe by Samo. Nay, and dance so cacra, ya consu. O consu on bucket or do consu. Ya were drummer or do gum. They be an about or quanama. Drummer no man, and some I was school. Okoba no feel. Go the time nsu drum no ba yama. Ansa na wa ba mo. Emi na me hwe fie. Me chiche di ba no. Na mo hu da wa akonu nsu aye bibia ewia. Na me de na di ba na man. Gale opepa.
No, was it the
Na fancy da kono.
Oh, I see.
Na jo. Mo mpie fufu. Mpie fufu kra, on di bi da. Dem otin no fifi a efie yinwin.
Okay.
O fia ta bro yan kakakra.
Okay.
No nye da grosso.
Okay.
Na obo tennis ball. Na debi o wa akoche na papa na nya abiro. Nti oba na obi sa oba da bran. Oda ka bibi bo na kakra. Nti ye gina bamba. na no school na n'edwuma yɛ dze ɔyɛ ndam ɔsafata nti ɔrekɔdɔm no ɔda me so mokɔ refie hɔ na ɔnye ne yɛ na ne mba wɔkɔ aburukyi ɔkatena hɔ kakra mbirbi nsam no bi wom na yɛtwitwa do nkakakra nti na mo ho abɛhia ɔwɔ na ɔma dɔ no ɔsa na ɛbɛde nnuadɔ na ɔyɛ hu dɛ mete n'akyi nti ɔyɛ dɛ maafa na ɔyɛ dɛ maahyɛ da ma nkurɔfo fa me dɛ o mekwa wɔre o mepɛ dɛ mewa na wɔabɛbisa me na maakyerɛkyerɛ wɔ so na no yɛnkɔɛ na yɛama mo ho kyerɛ me paa memenda efida kwasida ehu mo fia ninya na wɔfram Mike Eghan sister nyo last obaye me engagement nya grow Mike Eghan nyo ne nua nyo me kyerɛ ɔma mo ho kyerɛ me tama mo guda po mo ho kyerɛ odu baby me kete oba anyima watama baby na me ya akwachi na enye dɔm hyia nsɛm so dɔso me yɛ nyimpa mo ntumi yɛ nyina nti me yi bi fim da onyima ne de mpɛ dɛ me yɛ free mo tɔm me ntum na me jai okaka kyerɛ ɔboa me do baby adri yɛ rokoi ja ho manyame na ginyame di na ɔbɔbɔ kanyame bi dura antwempo wie be fi wo nyame nti me stand wɔ hɔ na me jai nti menua no ɔwɔ no ɔyɛ mo dɔfo ɔyɛ mo nua yɛ nuanom anya yɛ dɔ yɛ ho dada papa no dodɔ bi hyɛ ase na emi no no di ɔyɛ hu dɛ emo mpefufu no apɛ ɛno ama ɔtetu bi ntem.
Well, growing up, as I've said already, he was the 5th and I'm the 9th, and so there was a gap. I wouldn't be able to say exactly who he was when he was young, a child. Yes. But from when I was 10 years old, I can say something about him. He was somebody who was very hard working, somebody who was decent in dressing, somebody who was good. But then, if you misbehaved towards him, he wouldn't let you go free. He would fight you. And once he said, as for my sister, referring to me, he is gentle. But as for me, I'll fight you. So he was like that. And I remember on one occasion, he was fighting 2 boys at the same time. We were scared. We were saying, please, please, please. But then he stood between them and fought them. He really beat them. When we were in the middle school, our teacher punished us for no apparent reason. So when we returned home in the afternoon and told him, we just told him, not knowing he had already gone to the school. So as soon as we went to school in the afternoon, everybody, oh, but why? Why did you do that? Your brother was here to beat the teacher. In fact, we felt bad. However, the teacher called us and apologized. So he protected us. My father was somebody who wanted all his children, in-laws, nephews, nieces, grandchildren to be around him. It was a big house. So when he left, my father wasn't very happy. And because of my father's mood, we also felt sorry. And again, as I've said already, he was somehow protecting us. So when he wasn't there, we felt it. But later, when we learned of what he was doing, personally, I took it. I was able to contain it. Whenever I attended meetings, people welcomed me with, well, welcome.
Oh, I see.
All because of him, yes. And in Accra, there was an occasion when he came out with this statement, the best comes from the West. Okay. So he made us proud. I will say he's had a positive impact on most of us, especially those who are younger than him, in that the way he worked, he worked and he's still working just like my daddy. My daddy was able to satisfy his employers, and he has done the same thing. And because of that, we also try to follow the footsteps. I call him Daddy Daddy. I don't think he even understands it. So first of all, ask him whether he understands when I call him Daddy Daddy. If he says no, then tell him it's because he's now taking the position of our father as the head of the Eghan's family. I see him as a father and then my own father in him. So I call him Daddy Daddy.
In those days, it was deemed, what shall I say, privilege to be working as a civil servant. And if you work so hard over the years, you are given what is called the European appointment, even though you are a Ghanaian or a black man or a Gold Coaster. Luckily, my father had worked so many years as has earned the position of a European appointment. So we were living in a bungalow. We had a mango tree there. We had a gardener. And the European town area, I don't know how big I can give you the picture, but it was mostly the residence for Europeans and those so-called African European appointment people. And the place was in a way like an apartheid sort of situation, where after 6 o'clock you have a police sentry standing at various corners. And if you don't live in that vicinity, you are not, that community, you are not allowed to go. And somehow the police people knew everybody who lived there, plus the kids. And we were close to the beach and also close to Fort Orange, which was originally built by the Dutch people in, I think, in the 17th or 18th century.
Mike proudly took us on a short walk through his childhood stomping grounds. The excitement was evident as we strolled around Fort Orange, which were the very grounds Mike had played around and formed the basis of the great man we know today.
After the prison was closed down, and they came to live here to manage the lighthouse.
Oh, I see.
I don't know how long the lighthouse ran before it was finally closed, but it went on for years. Even soon after independence, it was still being used.
Oh, so you never saw this place as a prison?
I did, because we lived here till 1965.
Oh, I see. Okay. And this would be...
This is the prison yard, where the prisoners will be allowed to come out, and all the cells are in there. Unfortunately, we can't get in, but they are allowed to come out here to exercise, and then they are sent back to the various cells. I don't know how many people we could accommodate then, but it was quite a number.
Ah, I see.
But you can go up still and see, see what's there.
At that young age, did you realize how nice it was, or was it? Because sometimes when you're young, you don't, take something in.
Yeah, I think we did in a way, but not on a larger scale. We thought we were privileged people.
Right.
And you were allowed to live here because your parent has been given what is termed a European appointment.
Right.
So you are in such privileged class. So we felt that way.
Oh.
In those days, the police people knew all the people who lived around this vicinity. So if you don't live here, you're coming after 6 o'clock, you'll be stopped.
Wow.
It's almost like apartheid in those days. Yeah, so we felt privileged, but we didn't place much premium on it.
Okay.
Just childish thinking, yeah.
So can you see where you were living from here?
Yeah, that place there with the iron roofing.
Oh, I see.
That used to be my father's bungalow. There wasn't a wall there then. And all this place where they're playing football used to be rocks and sea. But they have gained part of the land. They've reclaimed it and extended it, so it's now the naval base. One of Osajivo's brilliant idea that Ghana should be the beacon of the African emancipation. And he had a grand ideas for the naval base, but I don't think successive governments have been able to follow that vision and agenda. This Lake Buchumsi Sam's Fishing Harbor, named after a legal practitioner who did a lot of cases for the NDC in the hectic days of, what shall I say, constitutional rule, when there were a lot of legal challenges.
Right.
he was always defending the NDC position. So when he died at a young age, he wasn't that old, maybe in his early 50s or so. President Rawlings thought it wise to name something after him. So this place is named Lake Bosom Chisam. I was not happy about it because there were much greater people from the western region than Lake Bosom Chisam.
Oh, I see.
So I thought it could have been named after somebody more prominent than him, but he was then president, he had the power, and I didn't have power, and I don't know when I'll get power. So this is it.
Okay. So as a young boy, did this play a big role in
Yeah,
this?
it wasn't a fishing harbor then. It was an old harbor, and we used to go there and swim. There was some fishing going on, but not in the commercial, at a commercial level as it is today.
Right.
But there were maybe 15, 20 canoe boats.
Oh, okay.
That would bring fish. If the when is herring's period, the period for fishing, then we all come and I used to sell bread here on
really?
top. Yeah, my mother was a baker.
Oh, yeah.
And when it's fishing time, you are asked to go and sell bread. Panu yo, here bans panu. You know, you put raisins in it, and people like it because of the sweetness in the bread.
Like hot cross buns.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. There's tea bread and buns bread.
Oh, I see.
Tea bread is the one without sugar, and then sugar bread. And this old bungalow here was the bungalow for the police commissioner.
So, very historic place, huh?
Yeah, it should have been maintained as a heritage item.
Oh, so this, you are even on top of it. This is the yard.
Yeah, this is the yard.
Okay.
And these are the cells. This is the new addition, but the original building has cells here. And in there are cells, and here too, that arch there goes in there to the basement cells. And I remember that when the Positive Action Day happened, we had a lot of noise around this area. So I came up with my brothers and sisters, and we were looking down the street, and we saw people being brutalized and being bundled into the cars and brought here.
That was the Nkrumah.
Yeah. Before we became independent, the Positive Action.
Right. Okay.
When they were boycotting and looting things from the shops.
Oh, I see.
I saw that with my own eyes. It was such a painful thing to watch people being brutalized with truncheons, and then they wobble and fall down, and they're carried and brought up here and locked up.
So as a young boy, what did you make any sense of it, or did you have some?
I didn't understand what was happening that much. Right. I knew that there was some agitation. That's as far as I could. But I remember as a stubborn little boy, on an Empire Day, I think it was 49 or 50, I wore SG Now. There were little leaflets of SG Now, which Nkrumah had printed and was given. It was in red and white.
And what did that signify?
It meant that Nkrumah was agitating for self-government now.
Okay.
While the opposition was talking about self-government step by step.
Right.
So I wore that on my breast with a pin, just for defiance.
Right.
I didn't add any meaning to it. Yeah. So after the Empire Day, I was called at the assembly halls. 4 strong boys stretched up and given 6 lashes at my backside.
Right.
But I felt good.
At least you made some.
It got me some attention and attraction. But that was as far as the meaning goes. I didn't think beyond that. Yes. He was brought up by his uncle, Mr. Clement, who was a teacher. So soon after school, he was also enrolled to become a teacher. But after a little while, they were transferred to Takwa. His cousin who brought him up was transferred to Takwa as a headmaster, and he took him along. I think it was there that he got interested in trade. and then set up his own grocery shop and was operating it. And then, as I said, it was prestigious to be a civil servant in those days. So somehow he managed to get himself employed as a public officer. And he was attached to, it was then known as the Gold Coast Railway and Transport Corporation. But after independence, Nkrumah changed it and separated the Gold Coast, changed it from Gold Coast to Ghana Railways Corporation and Ghana Transport Corporation, State Transport Corporation. And my father was one of the first Africans who helped the Europeans to set it up. What we have today as State Transport Corporation. Well, he was a disciplinarian and a hard-working man. I was told by him that it was the habit of the expatriates, anytime they came and they took over an appointment, they would go through the list and the file of every staff employed there. And he was called by his new boss and asked him, Mr. Eghan, you've been here 8 years. There's no indication that you've ever been ill and gone to hospital. And he said, God is my doctor. So he worked throughout. I think he must have started working with the civil service at the age of maybe 32 or thereabout. And he worked till he went on pension at the age of 66 and died in 1975. My mother was a baker, and she was also selling cloths and bits and pieces to make up the family budget. My father's religion was known as the First Century Gospel or Faith Tabernacle, which in popular Ghanaian parlance, they are described as Chiribentia. They don't believe in orthodox medicine. So if you are ill, you pray to God and your faith in good Lord will heal you, whatever the circumstances are. So even though he belonged to that church, he made sure that we all went to Methodist school because he preferred their style of worship to the Catholic or the Anglican style of worship. So I went to Methodist school, as I said, from class 1 till standard 7. Then we did the common entrance examination in 1952. Then I went to Fijai Secondary School. Then it was not known as Fijai Secondary School, it was known as Secondary College. We started around a Sikadu area where the current, what shall I say, regional headquarters is regional headquarters in Secondary. And that's where I started my secondary education. But then, again, it was Nkrumah's idea to build more schools because education was paramount on his agenda, to build more schools and get every region to have a secondary school, as many as possible. So they purchased a piece of land at a place known as Fijai. That's where when the school building was constructed, we all relocated to that place. And I was the second batch of pioneers of Fijai Secondary School. Well, I would say I was an average student. My performance wasn't top of the class, and I wasn't bottom of the class either. I was always around middle or thereabout. But my English was perhaps my best subject. And I love science too. And I think when I got to Form 4, I wanted to go and do medicine because I love science. And my biology, my physics were very good. But my father, because of his religion and his belief, he thought that medicine is the devil's profession. So when I took my forms, I went and got the forms to get scholarship. When I took my forms to him to complete and sign, he got angry and tore it to pieces. That there's so much I can do in this world, but why medicine? Because that's against God's will. That it's only God who can heal. So that's how I did not become a doctor. Maybe I might not even have qualified, but I didn't get the chance even to begin. So soon as I got out of school, he made sure that I got employed at Barclays Bank in Takoradi.
Even though Mike's dad was a teacher, he didn't get the usual start as most children would.
I didn't go to school till I was about maybe 9.5, 10 years old. Yes. But the interesting thing is that because he had time to teach me in the house, mostly arithmetic then, and English, and tree, Fanti to be precise. When I got to class 1, I spent 1 day in class 1. They did a test, I was top of the list, so I went to class 2. in one day. After 2 weeks, I was sent to class 3.
Okay.
Class 3, I was there for 1 term, then I went to standard 1. So I caught up with the lost time.
Mike's school still stands today.
This is class 1, isn't it?
This is the office.
Ah, this is class 1.
This is class 2.
Yeah.
Class 3.
Yes.
Then, formally, this was class 4. After the state,
That's right.
class 4, class 5 and class 6.
Yes.
This is where Uncle Mike started. So for you young boys and young girls, if any of you want to be in TV or in any other field, become a doctor, become a teacher, or become anything in life, you have to remember where you start from. Where you start from is the most important, okay? So don't think everything is about running there to play football. Running there to play football is good too, but always remember that it starts here, okay? So that's why Uncle Mike came back to see his old class and to meet you, okay?
Let me sit down on my chair. Ooh.
A bit small now.
Yeah.
So this is where you write.
Yes.
And try and hide from all
I was given addition about 7 lines to write to add 3 figures, 2 figures, 4 figures, and you add it all together. Then I was given a small book, S-O so, U-O go, L-O low, N-O no.
You still know that? Okay, let's try. G-O, L-O, S-O. Okay, now you give this up. Okay, so guys, thank you so much. All right.
Oops. Thank you, Auntie Jenny. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. Next time I come to second, I'll come and look for you. Okay. Since you are my class teacher.
After school, Mike's professional life starts at the sort of opposite end of what he ends up doing.
As soon as I got out of school, he made sure that I got employed at Barclays Bank in Takoradi. That's how I started my career. He wanted me to be a banker. And again, because of his status and because of maybe his little income that he has stashed away at Barclays, when he took me and introduced himself to the bank manager, they were happy to give me employment as a bank clerk. Because of my attention and my interest in listening to the BBC and listening to a lot of music programs on the BBC, I developed a habit of wanting to sing, wanting to be a musician, wanting to be a drummer. And my late brother also had a group known as the Radio Melodians. They even did a recording on Decca and did a recording special for Roy Ankara. And I remember that song very well. Roy Ankara had become the first African to win the featherweight champion of the Commonwealth.
The Magnificent Emperor, brought to you by Provident Insurance and GN Life Assurance.
The ever-popular Ghana Nyigba, recorded by Ray Ellis, a member of the band Mike put together and actually funded. So as fate would have it, Mike meandered his way to Accra, where the real story begins to unfold, with his beginnings at GBC, then into the Accra nightlife scene.
Most of us didn't know what we were going to do or be in future from school. We just tried anything, and some were lucky to make it work. Now, Mike Eghan, the mighty emperor, was one of the few people who were employed by the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation purely through their talents. Many years ago, GBC wouldn't just accept you because you want to work there. It's because you had something to offer the institution. And some of us went there because they thought we could help the place or the institution to progress. Now, we did talent hunting. There were people who were found outside by broadcasters who could tell this man can be a broadcaster or can do the type of work we're doing. Now, Mike entered the entertainment section of the Ghana Broadcasting Service through one producer, Rio Rabbi Williams, he became a head of programs for Ghana Television. Now, if you went into GBC, the director's office, you find all these pictures there, those who have passed through as directors or head of programs or done something. Leo would go around recording Radio Dance Time and other musical programs. And quite often when he went out, he looked for talents, people who could assist. And so Mike Eghan was one of those who in Sekondi Takoradi will always be available for Mr. Robbie Williams. He will help him to compare his program and eventually take over as the master of ceremonies, And through that, one day after a beautiful session, and of course after that, we usual round of a drink, a beer or something, Leo Robbie Williams suggested to Mike, I think you can help broadcasting. David Labitu was there, and they worked together with Robbie Williams. Went all over the country recording programs and left. And later on, I think Mr. Charles Asno took over. Now, Mike had to leave Ghana for London because Pete Myers went over to London from GBC. He hadn't done any broadcasting before in his life. It was the first time in broadcasting, Pete Myers, and he became a talent. Went to BBC, British Broadcasting, and made it big. And so, Mike was attracted. He went there and made his mark. He introduced music with the African beat, showcasing talents like Francis Bebe, Mani Dibango, all the great African talents, including fella Nicola Kuti. And around that time, GBC, around 68, after the coup, GBC established the commercial department, Radio 2, or GBC 2. And Mike was invited by Charles Asino, who was actually head of programs, director of radio, to come and join the new set. Mike came in with his own brand style and approach to music, disc jockeying. He excelled and stayed on. In short, Mike started life as a bank clerk, was interested in broadcasting, particularly jazz music, and he introduced jazz and other musical programs for Rio Rabbi Williams, and I made himself the man he is today. So if he calls himself Mighty Emperor, I didn't know actually the Mighty Emperor was just the abbreviation of his name, Mike Eghan, Mighty Emperor. It was when I writing something about him recently that I realized. So Mike has made himself.
I've known him since I was a studio technician in Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, and that's around what the 73 going. I worked as a TV technician in the studios and outside broadcasts, and he was working in TV production program. Okay, that is Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. So during those years, I didn't know him that well in terms of personally having a chat, doing things together, but we all knew him as one of the best DJs that we had and the best MCs that we have, and one of the well-dressed, gentlemen on the compound. He was quite popular. Okay, so his programs were patronized, there were a lot of viewings, a lot of comments. People wanted to associate with him and so on. So, as you young people would say, he was quite hot in those days.
I have known him practically ever since I became aware of myself. I can think, the first time I heard about him was at secondary school. He's, I would say, a few years older than I. And in secondary school, we had lights out. However, on Saturday evenings, he had a program called the Radio Dance Time. So we all would gravitate around the radiodiffusion set, the one that is set in the middle of the dormitory, and we'd all gravitate around it after lights out. Of course, we're not supposed to, but it was such an interesting program that we would all make our way there on Saturday evenings and listen to him. He used to co-host the program with his boss then. I think it was Mr. Leo Rabi Williams, and then later on, this fellow called Charles Asino. So every Saturday evening, we had a date with him. And that was when I first knew him, or first of all, I knew his name. It was significant because, well, he was not that much older than us. But the point of it was that he was allowed to be out there after 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, in a radio dance or in a dance hall. So we all kind of envied the job that he had, envied the fact that he was there, enjoying good music whilst we were cooked up in the dormitory. So yes, I knew him before politics.
Sometimes a working partnership is so successful that colleagues end up being like siblings. Such was the case when Mike started working with David Larbi. Being very in tune with his emotions, the departure and ensuing separation from David caused a bit of despondency within Mike.
My decision to leave broadcasting was simply because my then best friend, David Larbi, had been given employment at the Ghana film industry, which is now TV3. So I was the lone boy here. I mean, we were working together, as I said before, as Siamese twins. And then my twin had left, and I felt a bit lonely. And I remember going to talk to my boss, Mr. Akrofi, who was then head of the department, that look, this is what has happened. My best friend has left. I'm alone here. He's earning X amount. What can you do about my salary so that I can also feel, yeah. And he says I needed to do music up to a certain level because I was then within the music department of broadcasting. And I thought that was going to take me too long a time to go do music, to get to that grade and then get promoted. Meanwhile, my friend is already earning so much money. So I had a friend who was working, whose brother was the head of employment, the human resource manager at VRA, Mr. Futa. So I spoke to him about it, and he said, okay, I can get you a job if you're ready and willing to leave broadcasting. So he spoke to his brother, Mr. Futa, and he offered me the job as entertainment manager for VRA to take care of their community center in Akosombo and be part of the building process of Akosombo. So based on that, and so I had an offer letter, which I went and showed to Mr. Akrofi that, look, this is what has happened. Here's a letter. I love broadcasting. I like to stay, but you have to do something about my salary. If not, I'll be inclined to accept this offer. And he insisted that no, either do the music course and get promoted, or you take your own decision. So with the letter in my hand, I left and went to Akosombo, and I took up a job as the entertainment manager for Volta River Authority. That's how I left Broadcasting House. Nkrumah's vision in building a unique country was so prominent. He had decided that anybody who worked at the building site at Akosombo should be considered as somebody at the war front and should be given certain privileges. So as I went there as a newly employed person, as a senior member, I was given a complete bungalow, fully furnished to the teeth, if the expression would allow me to use it. That everything was there. All you needed to do is to go there with your clothing. Bed sheet, cutlery, plates, toilet roll, towels, soap, everything is there like for you.
Hotel, so to speak.
Like a hotel. But I had my own apartment, a 2-bedroom apartment. So I was very comfortable there. And I loved working with the people there. People appreciated what I was doing. We had a cinema hall. We had a library. I set up a library in the community center. And I also organized what called palm wine days on Sundays. One day a guy came there playing a guitar, and it just struck me that the guitar origin is from palm wine drinking places. So why don't I set up? So I organized that every Sunday there will be palm wine day, and the expatriates will come and drink the palm wine, and this guy will be playing his guitar. It was the other attraction I had there, apart from the library and the regular cinema shows, was that those days we had what is known as cantata, men who dress like women and speak with a feminine voice and act and present a drama to the public. And every other fortnight, I'll bring one group from Accra or somewhere to come and perform. And all these things made it very popular. Again, I had some reason to have connections with the brewery, Star Beer in particular. So we were never short of beer in those days at the community center. So these were the things that made me happy. I was making people happy there, giving them some level of satisfaction. And I was also getting, most importantly, job satisfaction, not only from the remuneration that I was getting or the pegs that I was getting, but that people were appreciative of my effort and my ingenuity, if I may call it that way.
Mike was keen to show us his old Akosombo neighborhood, and who were we to refuse such an offer?
I had a free hand to organize whatever I thought was good for the community.
Oh, okay.
Dances, concerts. As I said, I had a palm wine every Sunday. I found a guy who was a guitarist.
Oh, okay. And they used to come and play.
Yeah, he was the only solo guitarist, but every Sunday he come and play palm wine songs. So
and then you serve palm wine too?
Serve palm wine. See?
You drink the palm wine too?
No, he's a Muslim.
Yeah. Okay.
Can't buy me love, love, can't buy me love. I'll buy you a diamond ring, my friend, if it makes you feel alright. I'll get you anything, my friend, if it makes you feel alright.
As a man known for his principle and determination, Mike packed his bags in 1966 and set sail for London with one mission in mind: to work with the BBC. It was in London that the real emperor started to blossom.
It's a question of passion. I had a passion for radio. Those days I was not even thinking much about television, but radio was a thing. And I grew up listening to BBC, Voice of America, and other radio stations, listening to music and listening to presentation. So I wanted to improve my performance as a broadcaster. I wanted to upgrade my horizon. So I said that, why can't, if I can go outside the country and learn a bit more about professional broadcasting, it could help me. Besides that, there was the attraction of my good friend Peter Myers, who had then left broadcasting, Ghana Broadcasting, and gone to UK, and he was broadcasting regularly every morning on BBC World Service. So I thought, well, why don't I follow Peter to England, improve my performance as a broadcaster. We were writing to each other, and so these are the reasons, motivation for moving from VRA to London. In fact, when I was going, I took my annual holidays. Right. When I got to London, I decided to stay, and I wrote that I would like an extension. They wrote back to say that if I didn't come at a certain time, I should consider myself sacked, and I accepted it. But the end of it is that. Yeah. That's where we are today.
In 1970, Mike decided to move back as he felt the urge to return to some of the values he had grown up with. He felt that his stay in London and the British culture were conflicting with the upbringing he had gotten whilst growing up.
There were two motivating factors. The first factor was my son, my eldest son, Mike Jr. He's now a big boy. But he was then about maybe 7, 8 years old. Okay. And those.
So you had him before?
Yeah, I had him before. Yeah, before I went to London. So he was schooling there, and every Sunday, those days the television was black and white television. It's not that big. It's about the size of something very small, black and white television set. And every Sunday I'll take the laundry of the whole family, my wife and Junior, to the laundrette, do the washing there, dry them, and come back and iron for the whole week. And Sundays is when I watch football. So one Sunday, whilst I was doing that, I turned the thing into football, and Junior came in and changed the channel without asking me. Right. So I said, why? He said he wants to watch his favorite program, Thunderbirds Are Go. It's a cartoon sort of thing, science fiction cartoon. So I said, no, I'm watching football, so I changed it. And he changed it again. So I smacked him a couple of times. And I said to myself, when I was home, I couldn't do that to my father. But here we are, bringing an African boy in England where the culture and the relationship between father and son is totally different. So I started thinking, should I allow my children to grow up here, or should I go and bring them up in the Ghanaian tradition until they are mature enough to understand the different cultures? So that was playing in my mind. And the second reason was that GBC, Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, has started a commercial service, which was then GBC2. And my former boss, Mr. Charles Asina, was always writing to me to come back and help him run the station. So whilst Michael's incident was agitating my mind, I had an invitation I had a letter that Mr. Eric Ajololo, who was then the Deputy Director of Broadcasting, was coming to London, and he would like to meet with me to discuss the possibility of returning home to work with GBC. And indeed, I was working with the recruitment department, so he came to the recruitment department. I was interviewed, and I was offered a job to come back home. So I jumped for the opportunity to address my own desire to want to come back, to share the experience I've gained in Britain. I was there 66, came back in 1970. So 4 years there. I had learned a bit that I thought I could share, and also introduce it to the Ghanaian populace. And you may remember I said to you that I introduced phone-in programs in Ghana for the first time. Yes. So these are some of the things I had experienced, and I thought I should come back home and share. So my son's conduct and the offer that I made was too good for me to come back home. So I wasn't coming back home with loads of money, but I wanted to come back home to share the experience I've had, and also to bring my children up in the Ghanaian tradition and culture.
As a man who would pursue every good thought and opportunity, no matter how small or big, Mike also formed a good partnership to set up within the hotel industry, not forgetting his involvement in insurance as well.
As I said, because of the officialdom and the red tapeism, and you can't do this and you can't do that, I had started, Mr. Rafquis, out of his kindness of the heart, has supported me, has sponsored me to start up my own disco. Okay. And whilst I was running the disco, one evening, a white couple walked in there, and the place was very near to Globe Cinema. Those days, there were not many people with video cassettes and things. So everybody came to Globe Cinema. So one evening, I was there when a white couple walked in there, Mr. Sandy Anderson and his wife, Trish Anderson, came in there for a drink. And seeing white people in my disco was rare. So I asked them whether they were tourists. And he said, they laughed and said, no. Mr. Anderson actually was born at Kolebu. And the wife was also born in Ghana. They were the children of expatriates who had come to Ghana to work. So we struck friendship and became friends from the disco. And there were regulars there. And then it struck me that, why couldn't I set up a hotel? But I didn't have the funds. I went to the bank to ask for a loan, and they were asking for collateral, ABCD documents, which I didn't have. So talking to my friend Sandy Anderson, I mentioned this to him. He said, I have a property that I can give it to you as a collateral. Again, that was a strange proposition to me. You are just friends, and you're going to give me your property as a collateral. Assuming I run away, you lose your property. He says, I know you wouldn't run away. So the two of us went to the bank manager. He indeed offered his property for me to raise a loan. Then I said, well, so what do you want from me if you're going to help me raise the loan? He said, nothing. So I said, why don't you be partners with the venture that I want to do? So we agreed and became partners. And we had 50-50 shares. And that became a slogan between the two of us, a catchphrase between the 50-50. Well, whatever we did was 50-50. So that led to the establishment from the disco, which was entirely my business, to the starting of a hotel. The original hotel was Sundown Hotel. And I was visualizing an evening, the sun going down, and somebody sitting at the hotel and having a nice cool drink. So that's how the name came. But luckily, it was fairly successful. Then we started the second hotel, which was Sunrise Hotel. And it was perhaps a sequence that from sundown, the sun goes down, what does it do? It rises again. So from sundown, we came to Sunrise Hotel.
I first met Mr. Mike Eghan, even though I had come pretty close to him without really talking to him, when he used to run his Mike's Disco. I've been to the disco a few times, you know, when he ran it, and I'd seen him there, but we'd never got into talking together. But in 1982, the late Mr. von Bolmus was toying with the idea of setting up an insurance company, and he had asked me to join him, and I had, and I needed to know who the other partners were, and I was told Mr. Mike Eghan, and that was when we got together at a board meeting. I was actually in awe of him because, I mean, I held him in very high esteem, and I was excited that I was going to sit in the same room with him and have discussions, and that I was going to have the opportunity to actually call him a partner. Entertainment is business. And I had no real worries at all because I knew Mr. Eghan had been running, besides the Mike's Disco at that time, he was running his hotel in Asylum Down, I think. So I had no worries. I had no worries at all. And besides that, I'd always been impressed the way he carried himself in the studio. And his presentation and things, for me, was an indication of good planning and good management. And so I had no worry that he could translate that into business. What he did with our business was small. He was an investor in the business, and his real contribution was in the boardroom. He was not a practitioner, but he was, you know, he was a policy maker. And he came across to me very well grounded in issues. Mr. Eghan is very patient, but very decisive, very considerate, and yet when he had to make a hard decision, he would make the hard decision. And that's what you need in business. Mr. Eghan's legacy, let me first say, Mr. Eghan taught me a few things. Mr. Eghan taught me patience. Mr. Eghan taught me control from my interactions with him. Even though he would be angry at something, he had a good grasp on himself, which I'm afraid I didn't have that much of. And I admired that. And in admiring that, I tried to emulate him. I don't know to what degree I've succeeded, but I think that I learned quite a bit from him.
The Magnificent Emperor, brought to you by Provident Insurance and GN Life Assurance.
Mike Eghan has seen his beloved country go through a lot of political changes, and this would have affected him one way or the other, even more so as a popular entertainer. So here he talks about some experiences and his venture into politics.
Well, I was in Ghana 66 when the coup took place. Right. I was in Ghana 72 when Achampon took over. And I've been in Ghana ever since all the other coups. In 1970, I was in broadcasting. In 72, I was in broadcasting when Achampon took over. And it did bring some changes, because that was the first time we were trying to, for want of a better word, experiment with democracy, the way that it's been printed out for all of us to know. So the changes were not readily acceptable by many people. But somehow I've always, now that I'm a politician in addition, I've always blamed the various military interventions as the reason why our democracy is still yawning. Because if the interventions have not come, we would have made all the mistakes we are making now and have corrected them by now. Because if you read history, I'm not a historian, all the other regimes, all the other governments have also grown and gone through certain processes, errors, to improve and develop their democracy. I think apart from the people who initiate the coups, many Ghanaians are not happy when there's a coup, because it tends to disrupt our regular activities. It tends to send us back a few years, and then we have to begin again. And it comes with its own hardships. You take, for example, 79 coup, where women were whipped in public. I myself, I was arrested and beaten.
Really?
Yes. I was arrested and beaten in 79.
What was that based on?
Well, the story goes like this. I was running Sundown Hotel.
Okay.
Beer was in demand. The breweries were not producing many bottles as it is today everywhere. And there were some military officers in civilian clothes came there to have a drink. They bought a few more drinks. And because we were rationing things, we couldn't serve them as many bottles as they wanted. They insisted on it. My barman refused. So they went away and said, well, we will show you. Typical Ghanaian attitude. So they went, before you could say Jack, they arrived with a pins goer full of military men armed to the teeth. Who is the manager here? Selling above control price. Control price was a big crime in Ghana then. But I wasn't selling above control price. But I have refused to serve them more than more as they wanted. So I was arrested, beaten up, roughed up, and sent to Gonda Barracks. My vehicles were seized. My 2 members of staff were also arrested and sent there. Luckily for me, because I had then been presenting the Mike Eghan show where I sing my song, Well, Well, Welcome to the Show, I was made, as part of my punishment, I was made to sing, to tease me and to humiliate me. Sing your song, you think you are the only one on TV. Sing the song. Then slaps, boots, all that will come. If I take off my shirt, you may see a scar. I was being whipped with a gun strap, and the hook hit my spinal cord and made a mark on it. Anyway, so whilst I was being asked to sleep and do press-ups, and they use a vulgar word for press-up, which I can't use on television. Whilst I was doing the press-up, I was also compelled to sing. And I think that's when the then chairman of the junta heard it. And why would they bring this guy here? I suppose that's the question he was asking himself. So he sent one Lieutenant Dennis to come and check whether it is me there and why. So when he came, indeed, it was me. So he asked the boys to stop and said that they should take me to the jail. I think it was a protective measure, because if he had left me there, God knows how long I'll be beaten. So he took me there and asked somebody there, I don't know the other person, to take care of me. And I think the next day I was released. Apart from you, another person that is really big now is is it Kwesi Sintim, KSM?
Yes, yes.
He has said this to me personally. He has said this on his show when he's seen me there at the National Theatre, that when he was young, he always wanted to be a Mike Eghan one day. Wow. So if he's doing it today, it's through my inspiration.
the thing about me and Mike Eghan is almost like I don't know, like a dream. Let me tell you, I adored Mike Eghan, and I'm talking about adore with a capital A. You know, I think looking back is probably a sign that I was probably always interested in show business, because Mike, when I saw Mike on TV with the Mike Eghan show, I was like, I want to be like this man. I mean, let me put it this way: he was a god, man. I love his flow on TV. He was different. We had never seen anything like that on Ghana TV. At least I hadn't. He was different. He came with his whole, what's the word? He had his own swag. You know, he was on radio and he called himself the Magnificent Emperor. You know, I mean, Mike was different, and I really, really wanted to meet him. And then one day, I went to the arts center. This is back in the 70s, guys. This is long, long ago. And I'm waiting for a taxi or a trotro, I think, to come back to Usu. And then this blue VW is passing by. And then he stops. And I look in, and it's Mike Eghan. I'm like, oh my God. And he goes, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going to Usu. I was very nervous. You know, that was Mike Eghan. He has stopped to give me a ride. I said, I'm going to Usu. So I said, hop in. So I got in the car. And you can imagine what I'm going through now, right? This is somebody that I adored. This is somebody that I loved so much. And he says, hop into my car. And I'm sitting in his car right next to Mike, and we are driving. And I'm dumbfounded. I didn't know what to say. But I remember he started a conversation, you know. I don't remember everything he said. All I remember was this, that he was talking about Kwame Nkrumah and how great a leader he was, and just talking about Nkrumah and, you know, carrying on about Nkrumah. And I've been a lover of Nkrumah too for a long time, you know. So I was like, hey, at least I and Mike, we're on the same plane, you know. I don't remember if I said anything. I was too shy. I was too in awe. So we came, and then he dropped me off at the, what used to be my coffee's, whatever. He dropped me off there, and I thanked him, and I stood at the junction there. I couldn't walk. Man, I've just been in Mike Eghan's car, man. Mike Eghan gave me a ride, and it was like, you know, back in those days, there was no Twitter, of course. I'm sure I would have just gone right on my Twitter and said, just had a ride with Mike Eghan, you know, hashtag Mike Eghan or something like that, you know. Or taking a selfie with him in the car, you know. We didn't have that those days. So all I had was the memory and my mouth to brag about it, about how Mike Eghan gave me a ride. I worshipped him. You know, I loved his show, you know. He would come on and sign off differently. Well, welcome. Well, welcome to the show. Nobody was doing that in Africa.
Mike Eghan, whom we normally refer to as the Emperor, and I date back many decades. I had known him from the distance, but I met him for the very first time in the then Studio 10. Okay. For when I responded to an invitation on air to be a member of the panel, participating group, to be a member of the audience for a live program. Okay. And I saw him from the distance, and I admired him. Here is a young man, slim, who came with all the confidence and started telling people what to do, took us through all the processes, the applause and all that, how to respond. And I said, wow, this is somebody whom I want to be like. Right. Okay. And then I participated in that weekly program over a period. I started admiring him. That was in the late 60s. Okay. Until, by a certain divine intervention, I had to organize the GBC fan club. Okay. So we started working, and then the constitution demanded that a senior member of staff be appointed to coordinate between the fan club members who are outsiders and the GBC management. And Mike Eghan happened to be so appointed, and I ended up being elected as the first national chairman. So there was a very close-knit relationship now. I worked to Mike Eghan. That was how we met, and it continued over a long period of time. Indeed, he became my first shift supervisor when John Hammond was the one who was the head of department. So these two influenced my life tremendously. Mike Eghan was a huge influence. He was an all-rounder. He was a leader in the media. When it comes to interviewing, there was one thing he did I couldn't do. He played the best of jazz. I can still play jazz. We should remember Mike Eghan for a very, very long time to come, and the legacy that we should remember him for is giving life to radio. Radio before Mike Eghan's time was too formal. You have to write scripts to go on air. Mike Eghan gave it a freestyle, free expression. He would ad-lib and tell a story and describe something and do an interview. Presence of mind, attentiveness, you know, and that's what I will remember him for a very long time to come.
His life in politics predated me. But in 2007, we found ourselves on the same ticket, running for the same thing in the sense that we were pursuing the same objectives. He was running to be treasurer of the CPP, and I was running to be chairman. Of course, I knew him from what I told you, and I'd had, in between then, he'd done politics, he'd gone into the hotelier business. So I knew him at that. And I remember we went to Congress and I secured the position I wanted, which was chairman, and he secured the position that he wanted, which was treasurer. Now this was in Kumasi. The next day we came to Accra, and one of the CPP bigwigs, he's alive now, but so I won't mention his name, but he called me, he asked if I could see him, and of course being elderly, I went to see him. And he said to me, you know you are chairman and you know you're treasurer. And this man said to me, don't trust your treasurer. I know him to be somebody who will not be straightforward with you. So be careful of him. This is what this man said to me. I said, well, that's odd. So anyway, I kept the story to myself. I didn't say anything to him. But 1 year, 2 years later, I found him to be the most trustworthy person I could find. I found him to be the most loyal person to work with. And I was thinking to myself, well, you know, politics has a way of people presenting themselves in different ways. Not so him. But the point of the matter is that because most people in politics tend to be straightforward, and I say that without, to be not straightforward, sorry, and I say that without any apologies, I guess when you expect to connive with somebody and he is not about to connive with you, you tend to think of him as somebody who's not trustworthy. Maybe that was the impression or that was the experience of the gentleman. But as a politician, I found him to be the most trustworthy person I could find.
Mike is from a vicinity in Secondary called European Town. I don't know, that name European maybe derived out of when the colonial masters were here. I mean, they were living around where Mike used to live. And you go up the hill a little bit, they have bungalows and all that. So we call that area European Town. It's like where the elite were living. So that was the area Mike Eghan is from. Secondly, was a place that's full of music. We had Skylights Dance Band, we had the Weavers Band. You go to Takoradi, there was Broadway Dance Band. We had a place called the Canary. It's a place that they organized dance music and all that. We had another place closer to Canary called the Tropicana nightclub. It was later on changed to Empire nightclub. And that was a place that we used to hear more of the American music, you know, coming from James Brown and Wilson Pickett's, and you're talking about the Booker T and the MG, you're talking about the Jimmy Smiths and all that. We used to hear them from there. I didn't know much of Mike, though he's my senior. But I didn't know much because I knew where the family is. But at that time, he wasn't my friend or anything of that nature. But until he left for England. And he did his broadcasting and things like that in England. When he came back, thereby he joined the Ghana Broadcasting and also had a show called the Mike Eghan Show. And I was using welcome, welcome to the show, as a form of an introduction to his show. And he became very popular with that. It was one man, the late Cobner Taylor. Yeah, he's a manager. He used to be one of the producers in broadcast. He was the one who first introduced me, for a television program. Before Mike also introduced me on his program and all that. But Mike, in connection with all that he did, the entertainment side of him, with his programs and everything, catapulted him, into the public arena. Maybe people will know that there's somebody called Mike Eghan, and people were seeing him on TV as well, like every week or something like that, doing the show. So we all knew him before we started interacting, and he had a nightclub back where Adebraka, I think it's around Adebraka, where he used to do jazz music and things like that, like every Friday and things like that. So most of the musicians were going to meet there, and sharing ideas through the forms of playing and all that. I think the influence that Mike has had on the entertainment arena is his show, Mike Eghan Show. Yeah, became popular. And he was also introducing other artists, on his program and all that. And I think he became very popular with that when he came back from England. And aside from that also, putting up a club that, musicians were going to there to perform and all that. And, get into hotel business. The other side of him is that he didn't get into the production of music. Okay. I remember I made a record, and he took the record and sent it to England. And they made a vinyl, long plays out of that. I think he gave it to Ed Bentley in London, and they got together and manufactured the album. That was the only thing that I knew that he did on the side of production, producing music. But he hasn't been doing that. He didn't get involved in producing that much music, but he had an indelible stamp on the music by introducing artists and all that on his program and with his club, and as well as the hotel too. Some of the bands were playing there like every week. He made some bands to be playing there and all that. So that was the kind of interaction that he did, and the influence that he had with musicians. But he didn't actually got involved. He didn't get involved to redefine, music or, do something to it for another form of music, another style of music. Welcome. Welcome. Welcome to the show. Bang.
Look behind most successful men, and you are sure to find a strong backing woman holding things together. Mike Eghan was very fortunate and blessed, as he would openly tell you, to have found his very early in life in the person of Dorothy Ohinewa Isleka. However, it did not start as smoothly as the lovebirds would have liked.
We go out, do everything. The parents we didn't allow, but we managed. And then I got pregnant. That was my first junior. So I had junior. Well, it did in a way, because when we got into that, I know what I wanted from the marriage. We were like in love. So I have to let go whatever he's doing, his work and everything. And to get somebody to take care of the kids, I thought it's not proper. I'll have to sit down and do it the correct way I want. And he will go and do maybe their programs. At times I go with him, but I just think back. I said, the kids are in the house, and I'm there with him. He is doing it well. Why don't I? Sometimes I leave him. I remember one time we were at a Chevrolet somewhere in Caprice. They used to have. So I left him midnight. I took a taxi to the house to take care of my kids. It doesn't really. I used to go out with him when I see he's so busy. Sometimes if I feel like standing there or staying there with him, I do. Otherwise, I just go back. I have the kids there, and I love to read bits and pieces, things, books. So I just whatever my hands reach, I just read it. So that's why that keeps me off from him. And I'm not bothered when he goes. If anybody tells me something, I just don't take it, because seeing is believing. I don't think it bothers me. I always wanted, whatever, anything happens, just tell me that this is it. And I think that's it, because it's the two of us that decided to come together. I don't believe in pushing people into my marriage. No, I don't want it. Before, the only person that I consult to give me advice was my late daddy. And since he's no more, I don't think I have to deal with my own problems, not even my family or anybody. I'm sorry to say that, but this is it. We are two characters under a roof, and, you have to study the man or study the person you are with. Even if it's your brother or sister, you know his shortcomings and everything. You either take it or stay. But if I'm going, I have to go with the whole lot, the kids. And I rather like them to, be in a family way. You either tell them to either be patient, is tolerant. I mean, when you love somebody, you wouldn't love to, They hurt you a lot, but then you either forget it, because if you're going to retaliate or something, it's going to be a different thing altogether. So these young ones, you even tell them, please, they wouldn't manage. So I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But I don't know. I can't tell somebody to do something. You can just give them an advice that do this, do that. And if they take it, fine. If they don't, because they know what they are about. They know what they wanted from marriage. They know what they wanted from relationship. I don't believe in forcing things on anybody or something, So far as you are happy and I'm happy, I think that's fine.
This undying love, which has blossomed to this day, enhanced Mike Eghan's family values a great deal and birthed 3 lovely children and 6 grandchildren.
The values of Uncle Mike are very evident in this candid chat I had with the Eghan children, well, they're not children now, with his in-laws and grandchildren for company.
He's a very interesting character, full of life, and most of all, he always wants to ask you what you want to do first, and he gives you all the support.
I was always asking, you need help with your homework, what can I do? Do you understand this? Are you okay with that? So that helped me in school as well, to be focused and studious.
Quite straight to the point. He wanted straight answers all the time. He'd ask you why. I remember that very well from him. It was always a why, wanting to explain why you chose a certain answer or why you chose a certain path. So you're kind of very constructive. People don't expect you to be asking them for things. For instance, I was doing some sales for a while, and you go to people and it's like, you don't need a business. Why are you asking me? So that's frustrating as well.
On the other side, everybody knows your name. So as soon as you mention your name, oh, are you Mike Eghan's daughter? So you have that sort of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Advantage as well.
Well, yes, because you know you're someone, they know your father, and then you also feel like you have to live up to that. So how you act and interact with other people, because they know who you are, you have to always be careful about what you say, how you act, what you do, because it all comes back full circle. Because Ghana is really, really small.
There's another thing I forgot to say, is he's always said, everything you do, I'll get to know. So I said, why? And that again he taught us, and he says, you'll find out one day. But it so happens that everything you do because of who you are, it gets back to you. Now, typical example is like, you really want to pass water, and people would want to just stand by the wayside and do it. 99 people would do it, doesn't make any difference. But let you go and do it. And everybody then, that's Mike Eghan's son. He's urinating on the street. So these were the things that we used to go through.
Necessary pressure to live up to what he's done or be told the same line as he did. And Dad never pressurized anybody to toe his line. He only encouraged you to do what you found interesting. And so it's not been pressure. More pressure being a son and doing the right thing, not getting people to say negative things. That was more pressure than being pressurized to be like him.
Okay. If you had the chance to change 2 things about your dad, what would it be?
I'd wish he was still younger. Okay. I wish him to be younger. The other change I think has come already. He's not as strict as he used to be. So I think I've got that approach.
Or maybe we're doing things right this time. But no, there's nothing I'd want to change. That is him. And I love him for who he is.
Michelle?
Well, I wish he had me sooner, so I could have seen the Mike Eghan show. I never got to watch an episode, so I always hear stories, but never got to really see him in action. People start singing to me on the streets, well, 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 come, and I'm like, whoa. You know, I want to see that, but I never got the chance. So.
Now, which 2 words, or which words would you say best describe your dad? If someone to say, describe him in 2 words.
He's a classic man, and he's a family man.
2 words, the greatest.
Michelle?
He's loving, and I think his family is the most important thing to him, so he always puts us first.
Careful, because we have an intruder, so we don't want
to. He doesn't know we're here.
Was he, growing up, was he a hands-on father? Sort of.
Definitely, I would say.
Okay.
Pick me up from school every day. We talked every single day. He's always asking me how my day was, how I was, making sure that I was okay, if I needed anything. Very hands-on, very involved in all different aspects.
What about you, man?
Yeah, he was very hands-on, loving, kind, and he wouldn't do anything to hurt us. I remember once we went to school in Burma camp. I think it was complex and experimental with my late sister then, and because of work pressure, I think time beat him. So we ended up walking from Burma camp to Kanda, and
it seemed like a wonderful thing for us, because I let the kids, let's go, we'll go home. But I overheard him discussing with his best friend or his mate, I can't remember who at the time in GBC, and he said he felt so bad. He was almost in tears, so I could tell from his voice. I was so hurt that because of work, he missed picking up his kids from school. He was hands on. Everything to do with education, his kids is number one.
Pretty much the same. He was always there, concerned about how you're doing. He made sure he was dropping you at school, picking up from school. Your snack was ready. He was always there.
Basically, every day he wants me.
Liar!
It's true. As much as I don't like him to know it, I mean, he's my idol right now. I mean, there's no other person that would rather be there. I'm glad to even have his name.
What about the other?
He's very caring. I don't think he ever wanted to let us down, even the smallest way. Because I remember when I was much younger, probably teacher's age, I hated it when he had to leave the house for anything. As soon as I smelled his perfume, I would be in tears. So he'd run around the house for a bit and I would always catch him. So he'd have to take me round the corner to buy candy, and then I'd be quiet and let him go.
I think Grandpa was a very fun person to be with, and he's just very outgoing and easy to talk to. And yeah.
What about you two?
We just love their grandpa.
Love the pizza from Grandpa.
Yeah, pizza.
Like what Uncle Pipi said first. He's a classic man.
One time.
And I like that he likes. I like the fact that he likes buying things for us.
All the time.
Okay.
I'm trying to find a way of helping them not to go through the same routine that I have been through, that their children should be better educated. In fact, in this modern day, education is the most expensive, priceless commodity you can get. Education is the underscoring factor in whatever you do. If you're not well educated, if I was born today with my level of education, I couldn't have achieved what I've achieved today. So education, my major regret is not educating myself higher and giving my children higher education too. What I would say, first and foremost, as I've just said, education. Make sure you get the highest education that you can give yourself, because education opens all doors for you. You can pitch yourself against anybody if you're well educated and you understand issues. Because education broadens your mind and strengthens you to be able to analyze, do critical analysis of situation and make a contribution. So you need to be educated. One. Second thing is to be able to be passionate about what you want to do. If you want to do it's not everybody who can be a broadcaster, because there are certain things that are prerequisite of a broadcaster. Good voice is important. If you have a voice like a cockroach, you can't be a broadcaster, but you need a good voice. Number two, you should be committed, devoted, and be prepared to learn from others who know best. As I say, education is a priceless commodity. So that's what be committed, be disciplined, be respectful, and be prepared to carry your pride and honor. I think it's a great honor for you to give me this huge exposure. I hope that I have not disappointed you or disappointed people who are watching the program now. Thank you.
In all things, your courage, determination, and hard work will determine the blessings you receive from your Maker. And in Mr. Mike Eghan's case, this is as true as it gets. These blessings gave Ghana one man who transformed the way we would see broadcasting forever. And even at the ripe age of 80, Uncle Mike, as is evidenced here, is still as eloquent and full of life as ever. Mike Eghan, Ghana is blessed to have you, and long live the Magnificent Emperor.
The Magnificent Emperor, brought to you by Provident Insurance and GN Life Assurance.